The air in the Federal Reserve Annex was thin, cold, and smelled faintly of new money and old anxiety. Sunlight filtered through the severe vertical blinds of the 40th floor, cut the conference room into sharp, uncompromising stripes of light and shadow. This was not a space built for dreams. It was an altar to calculated risk, manned by priests in bespoke tailoring. In the center of this sterile theater sat two men, separated not by distance but by galaxies of philosophy. One, Mr. Sterling, vice president of strategic capital, epitomized the polished arrogance of established wealth. His suit was armor. His watch was a statement. His smile, when it appeared, was a calculated expense report. He sat upright, hands laced neatly atop a leather-bound financial dossier marked simply, Project Phoenix. Across the expansive mahogany table, the other man, a figure whose name would soon be synonymous with the impossible, slumped slightly, his posture speaking to endless nights spent under the harsh glare of CAD screens, not chandeliers. His clothes were functional, a wrinkled dark blazer, worn denim, and shoes that looked like they had trodden on factory floors and dusty launch pads, not just plush carpet. He was there seeking salvation, a crucial injection of faith for a venture the world had already labeled dead on arrival. Sterling cleared his throat, the sound amplified in the hushed space. He didn't open the dossier. He didn't look at the projections, the engineering schematics, or the desperate plea for belief contained within. He looked only at the man's jacket, then his scuffed shoes. "Mr. Musk," Sterling began, his voice dripping with practiced condescension, "we've reviewed your proposal. We've assessed the risk profile. And frankly, we've analyzed you." The tension in the room coiled tighter. The only sound was the distant hum of the city, a symphony of commerce the bank manager believed he controlled. "What you are asking for," Sterling continued, leaning forward just enough to make his superiority clear, "is not a loan. It is an act of pure financial fantasy. Your projections are aggressive, your timeline is impossible, and your collateral, well, your collateral is a pile of scrap metal and a fever dream about rockets that simply do not have a place in the stable, predictable future we invest in." The words were precise, intended to wound, to diminish. This wasn't merely a financial rejection. It was a character assessment delivered by the gatekeeper of the status quo. Musk remained motionless, his eyes, often described as possessing a hyper-focused intensity, simply watching the man across from him. He offered no defense. Sterling, emboldened by the silence, decided to go for the kill shot, the personal, irrelevant dig that often separates the bureaucrat from the builder. "But what concerns us most, Elon," Sterling emphasized the first name with a theatrical sigh, "is your presentation. This isn't a garage startup meeting. This is a federal institution managing billions of dollars of trust. You show up here looking like you just rolled out of a truck stop. No tie, no polish, no respect for the gravity of the capital you are requesting." Sterling paused, allowing the judgment to hang heavy. He gestured dismissively toward Musk's attire. "We lend to people who look like they understand success, people who respect the process. You look like a brilliant engineer, yes, perhaps a mad scientist, but certainly not a reliable steward of high-value assets. You don't just sell an idea, Mr. Musk. You sell confidence, and frankly, wearing clothes that look like they belong in a second-hand store in the middle of this city. It sends a message of fundamental unseriousness." The banker smiled, a shark showing its gums. "We have decided to pass. The loan is denied. We suggest you find a venture capitalist who funds hobbyists, not serious enterprises that require disciplined leadership." The silence returned, but now it was different. It was deafening. It was the moment the hammer stops mid-swing. The air thickened, not with anxiety, but with an immense geological pressure. For 30 excruciating seconds, the man who dreamed of Mars simply held Sterling's gaze. The banker waited for the expected plea, the negotiation, the descent into desperation. What he received was a slow, deliberate movement. Musk reached into his wrinkled blazer, pulling out not a counteroffer, but a slender, heavy mobile phone. He didn't look at Sterling. He looked at the device. His thumbs moved swiftly, executing a series of commands that involved more zeros than Sterling usually dealt with in a quarter. "Mr. Sterling," Musk finally spoke, his voice surprisingly low, carrying a deep resonance that seemed to vibrate the very foundations of the room. It was the voice of a man accustomed to speaking over the roar of rocket engines, not the whisper of corporate politics. You spent 5 minutes analyzing my clothes, my appearance, and my perceived respect for your archaic process. He didn't raise his voice, but every word felt like a physical weight dropping onto the mahogany table. You didn't spend 5 seconds looking at the mathematics. You didn't review the energy density algorithms. You dismissed the potential to save 1 billion human lives because you were worried about thread count. Sterling shifted nervously. I assure you our decision was based on fundamental. Musk cut him off, smoothly, definitively. Your decision was based on fear. Fear of anything that doesn't fit the laminated, predictable model you have been taught to worship. He placed the phone down, screen facing up. The display showed a simple, stark confirmation email from a major legal and regulatory clearinghouse. I didn't come here today for your money, Sterling. The banker frowned, confused. Then why waste our time? I came here to understand the flaw in the system, Musk stated, his expression impassive. The specific point of failure where competence is replaced by superficiality. I needed to see if the institution holding the keys to the future was run by true custodians of capital, or merely well-dressed actors playing roles. He leaned in, finally matching Sterling's intensity, but with a gaze that felt like looking into the core of a functioning reactor. I didn't need your approval for Project Phoenix. Musk picked up the email on his phone and pushed it across the table. Sterling reluctantly focused on the screen. The document was a standard merger and acquisition notification. The sender was a holding company Sterling vaguely recognized. The recipient was stated simply as First Federal Trust of Silicon Valley, Inc. Sterling's eyes snapped back to the screen. The date stamp was marked 45 minutes prior. The amount listed was staggering. The name of the new sole owner, the purchaser of the entire banking institution that employed him, was undeniable. The blood drained instantly from Sterling's face. His carefully constructed composure shattered. The suit suddenly looked like a cheap costume. Musk watched the man's realization dawn, slowly, agonizingly. An hour ago, Musk said, the tone now clinical. The primary holding group for this bank completed the transfer of ownership. I secured the funding elsewhere, from people who understand that risk is just a calculation, not a fashion critique. He allowed the silence to engulf them again, letting the sheer brutal reality of the reversal sink in. Sterling was now not only unemployed, but he was facing the ultimate irony. The man he had ridiculed for his lack of polish now owned his entire career trajectory. You looked at my worn jacket, Musk articulated slowly, emphasizing the contrast, and concluded I was unreliable. I looked at your perfect suit, Sterling, and I concluded you were disposable. He delivered the coup de grace, the wisdom earned through grinding sacrifice, aimed precisely at the heart of the corporate lie. You know the price of everything, and the value of nothing. You mistake the appearance of success for the actual work required to create it. My clothes are a distraction to you because they show I've been building things in the real world. Your clothes are necessary for you because they hide the fact you haven't built anything at all. The words hit with the force of an earth-shattering revelation. Sterling opened his mouth to speak, but only a dry, desperate whisper emerged. He was no longer the gatekeeper. He was simply a security guard who had just insulted the building's owner. Consider your employment with the newly structured First Federal Trust terminated, Musk concluded, rising slowly. He didn't offer a handshake. He didn't gloat. Perhaps you should spend less time judging the attire of innovators and more time judging the merit of their physics. He turned and walked toward the door, leaving the shell-shocked Sterling alone in the freezing geometric light. The door closed with a gentle, final click. The news broke like a shockwave. Financial markets froze. The story, initially treated as an urban myth, was quickly confirmed by regulatory filings. The narrative immediately shifted from a struggling visionary seeking aid to a titan demonstrating ultimate strategic power. The internet erupted in a frenzy of validation. Millions saw the footage, a leaked snippet of the confrontation that somehow made its way online, and recognized the painful truth of the exchange. It was a cinematic moment of pure, unadulterated meritocracy, fighting back against stifling bureaucracy. It was a victory for the people who bleed oil and solder their prototypes, over the people who merely push paper and police appearances. The irony was delicious, the lesson indelible. The man who cared about utility over branding had used the ultimate brand of utility, financial acquisition, to dismantle a critic who believed that the packaging was the product. The anecdote became instant legend. A modern parable proving that authenticity always outweighs artifice, and that true builders should never be judged by the superficial trappings of the world they are striving to fundamentally change. The future is built by calloused hands, not manicured executives. The world needs more people like this. Share if you agree.